of. Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever noticed that in every room, in every meeting, in every argument, there is often one person who speaks the loudest, the one who dominates the conversation, the one who interrupts, the one who believes volume is power, the one who thinks that if they can raise their voice high enough, long enough, aggressively enough, they will win. And sometimes, in the moment, it may look like they do. People go quiet. Others step back. The room becomes uncomfortable. Attention shifts toward them. For a brief second, it seems like loudness has authority. But if you watch closely over time, something remarkable happens. The loudest person often loses. They lose trust. They lose influence. They lose relationships. They lose opportunities. And eventually they lose the very respect they were trying to force. Because real power has never come from noise. It has always come from substance. Today, I want to share 5 reasons why the loudest person always loses and why the calmest, clearest, most grounded person often wins in the end. Let us begin with the first truth. Loudness creates reaction, but calmness creates respect. There is a major difference between getting attention and earning admiration. Many people spend their lives confusing the two. They believe that if everyone looks at them, then they must matter. They believe that if people become silent when they speak, then they must be powerful. They believe that the ability to dominate a room is the same as the ability to lead it. But attention is temporary. Respect is lasting. You can force people to notice you through anger, aggression, or volume. You can make a room uncomfortable enough that everyone stops what they are doing and focuses on you. But what have you really gained? You may have captured their eyes, but you have not captured their hearts. You may have controlled the moment, but you have not inspired belief. This is why calmness is so powerful. Calmness does not beg for attention. It naturally attracts it. Think about moments of crisis. When everyone is panicking, who do people turn toward? They turn toward the person who remains steady. When confusion spreads, who becomes valuable? The person who can think clearly. When emotions rise, who earns trust? The one who can respond instead of react. That is because calmness signals strength. Anyone can lose control. Anyone can explode. Anyone can allow emotion to take over and use volume as a shield. But it takes discipline to stay composed when you are challenged. It takes maturity to listen when someone disagrees with you. It takes inner confidence to lower your voice when others are raising theirs. Real power is not measured by how loud you become when things go wrong. It is measured by how centered you remain when pressure arrives. Consider some of the most trusted leaders in history. Many of them were not remembered for shouting. They were remembered for conviction. Their words carried weight not because they were screamed, but because they were backed by integrity. People listened because there was substance behind the message. Now think about your own life. Have you ever met someone who constantly raised their voice in arguments, meetings, or family conversations? At first, maybe they seemed intimidating. Maybe people stepped back from conflict. Maybe others avoided disagreeing with them. But over time, what happened? People stopped opening up. They stopped sharing ideas. They became careful, distant, guarded. Why? Because loudness may silence people, but it rarely connects with them. On the other hand, think about someone calm in your life. A teacher, a parent, a mentor, a friend. Someone who could speak softly and still command the room. Someone who did not need to prove authority because their presence already carried it. Someone who made you feel safe enough to speak, strong enough to grow, and valued enough to trust. That is respect. And respect cannot be demanded. It can only be deserved. Studies in leadership psychology repeatedly show that emotional regulation is one of the strongest traits associated with effective leadership. People trust those who remain composed under stress.
Why?
Because if someone cannot manage themselves, how can they guide anyone else? This principle applies everywhere. In business, the calm manager builds stronger teams than the aggressive boss. In relationships, the patient partner builds deeper love than the one who always needs to win. In parenting, the steady parent teaches more than the one who rules through fear. In friendships, the person who listens earns more loyalty than the person who always overpowers the conversation. So the next time you feel the urge to raise your voice just to prove your point, pause and ask yourself, do I want attention or do I want respect? because they are not the same thing. One can be taken in seconds and lost just as quickly. The other is built slowly, earned honestly, and remembered for years. Ladies and gentlemen, loudness may make noise, but calmness makes impact. Loudness may shake the room, but calmness shapes the people inside it. And in the end, the person who controls themselves will always be stronger than the person who tries to control everyone else. Let us move to the second truth. Talking more does not mean understanding more. We live in a world that often rewards the fastest voice in the room. Social media celebrates instant opinions. Meetings are filled with people trying to sound impressive. Arguments become contests of who can speak longer, louder, and more confidently. Because of this, many people begin to believe that the person who says the most must know the most. But that belief is dangerous. Words can create the illusion of wisdom, but only understanding creates real wisdom. There is a difference between having something to say and simply needing to say something. Many people speak not because they have clarity, but because silence makes them uncomfortable. They fear that if they are not constantly contributing, they will be overlooked. So they fill every pause with noise. But silence is not emptiness. Silence is where observation happens. Silence is where patterns become visible. Silence is where truth often reveals itself. The people who understand the most are usually not the ones rushing to speak first. They are the ones paying attention. They notice tone. They notice emotion. They notice what was said and what was avoided. They notice body language, hesitation, tension, and timing. These are things a loud person often misses because they are too busy performing confidence. Think about a doctor meeting a patient. If the doctor interrupts after 10 seconds and starts talking immediately, they may miss critical symptoms. But if they listen carefully, ask thoughtful questions, and create space for the patient to speak, they gain the information needed to truly help. The same principle applies in leadership. A manager who dominates every meeting may feel important, but they often create weak teams. Employees stop sharing ideas. Problems remain hidden. Innovation disappears. People begin to think, why speak if no one listens? Now imagine another leader, one who asks, what do you think? One who waits for the quietest person in the room to speak. One who values feedback instead of feeling threatened by it. That leader gains access to something priceless, the intelligence of the whole team. The smartest person in the room is rarely the one doing all the talking. It is often the one learning from everyone else. There is a reason great negotiators listen carefully before making their move. There is a reason strong therapists ask questions instead of delivering lectures. There is a reason the best teachers know how to hear confusion before they try to explain. Because listening gives you what speaking cannot, information. And information creates better decisions. In relationships, this truth matters even. Love. More. How many conflicts grow larger simply because neither side feels heard? One person is preparing their defense while the other is expressing pain. Nobody is listening. Both are speaking. Nothing is being solved. But when one person pauses and truly listens, something changes. Defensiveness lowers. Emotion softens. Understanding begins. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give another person is not advice, it is attention. Listening says you matter. Listening says I care enough to understand. Listening says this conversation is not about my ego. And that builds trust faster than any speech ever could. There is also humility in listening. It means accepting that you do not know everything. It means being open to correction. It means recognizing that every person you meet knows something you do not. That mindset creates growth. The person who always talks protects their current identity. The person who listens expands it. So ask yourself honestly, when you enter a room, you trying to be impressive or are you trying to improve? Because those are two different goals. One seeks applause. The other seeks progress. One wants to be seen as intelligent. The other wants to become intelligent. Ladies and gentlemen, the loudest voice may dominate the conversation, but it often leaves with the same knowledge it arrived with. The listener leaves richer, wiser, better prepared. Do not measure intelligence by volume. Do not confuse confidence with competence. Do not mistake endless talking for depth. Sometimes the most powerful words in a conversation are not spoken at all. They are found in the pause before you respond. They are found in the patience to understand. They are found in the courage to listen when your ego wants to interrupt. Because in the end, people who talk the most may feel heard, but people who listen the most learn how to lead. Let us now step into the third truth. Fear can create obedience, but it can never create loyalty. This is one of the oldest mistakes in human behavior. Many people believe that if they can make others afraid of them, they will gain power. They think intimidation is leadership. They think control is respect. They think if people become silent in their presence, then they must be important. But silence is not always admiration. Sometimes silence is survival. There are people who use volume like a weapon. They shout in meetings. They humiliate others in public. They turn small mistakes into big scenes. They make everyone around them walk carefully, speak carefully, and think carefully, not because they are inspired, but because they are scared. And for a while, it can look effective. Employees obey the boss. Children obey the parent. Partners avoid arguments. Friends stay quiet. Teams follow orders. From the outside, it may seem like authority, but look deeper. What you often see is not commitment, it is compliance. Compliance happens when people do what they must to avoid pain. Loyalty happens when people choose to give their best because they feel valued. These two things may look similar in the short term, but over time, they produce completely different outcomes. A workplace built on fear may hit targets for a season, but it will eventually suffer. Creativity disappears because people are afraid to take risks. Honest feedback vanishes because no one wants punishment. Mistakes get hidden instead of solved. Stress rises. Morale falls. The strongest people leave first because they know they deserve better. This is why so many talented workers leave managers, not companies. They can handle pressure. They can handle hard work. They can handle the challenge. What they cannot handle forever is being diminished. The same truth applies in relationships. If one person always has to win every argument through anger or intimidation, the other person may stop fighting back. But that does not mean the relationship is healthy. It may simply mean one person has become emotionally tired. They have learned that honesty leads to conflict, so they choose silence instead. And when silence becomes the price of peace, connection begins to die. You may win the argument and lose the intimacy. You may control the house and lose the warmth inside it. You may get obedience and lose love, because love cannot grow where fear lives. Now think about the leaders, parents, coaches, or mentors who changed lives for the better. Were they perfect? Were they demanding? Sometimes. But the best of them were respected because people knew they cared. They corrected with dignity. They challenged with purpose. They expected growth while still protecting human worth. That creates loyalty. Loyal people do more than what is required. They stay late when needed. They defend the mission when times get hard. They tell the truth even when it is uncomfortable. They grow with you because they believe in you. And belief cannot be forced. It must be earned. History gives us many examples. Organizations ruled by love. Fear often collapse from within. Why? Because people may obey publicly while resisting privately. They may nod in front of authority while withdrawing effort behind the scenes. Fear can control behavior for a moment, but it cannot command the heart. The heart always wants dignity. That is why the loudest person loses. They think volume equals strength, but true strength is creating an environment where others can thrive without fear. If you are a leader, ask yourself, do people perform around me because they trust me or because they are afraid of me? If you are a parent, ask, does my child obey because they respect my guidance or because they fear my reaction? If you are in a relationship, ask, am I building safety or am I creating distance? These questions matter because the answer determines what remains when pressure comes. Fear leaves when a better option appears. Loyalty stays even when things get hard. Ladies and gentlemen, anyone can force obedience with anger, threats, noise, but only character can inspire loyalty. Only consistency can build trust. Only respect can create devotion. So lower the volume and raise the standard of how you treat people. Because in the end, those who rule by fear may control bodies for a while, but those who lead with respect win hearts for a lifetime. Let us now turn to the fourth truth. Insecurity is often hidden behind arrogance. This is one of the most misunderstood realities in human behavior. When we see someone acting loud, dismissive, controlling, or overly confident, it is easy to assume they are strong. It is easy to believe they have high self-worth. It is easy to think they are fearless. But appearances can deceive. Many people who seem the most confident on the outside are fighting the deepest battles on the inside. Sometimes the loudest voice in the room is not the strongest person in the room. Sometimes it is the most afraid of being ignored, afraid of being exposed, afraid of not being enough, afraid of that if they stop performing confidence, others will discover the doubt they carry in private. So they build armor. That armor can look like arrogance. It can look like always needing to be right. It can look like interrupting others, rejecting feedback, bragging constantly, or refusing to admit mistakes. It can look like someone who has an answer for everything and patience for no one. But arrogance is often just insecurity wearing expensive clothes. A truly secure person behaves differently. They do not need to dominate every conversation. They do not need to prove their intelligence in every meeting. They do not need to tear others down to feel taller. They do not need constant praise to feel valuable. Why? Because security is internal. It does not depend on applause. When a person knows who they are, they can relax. They can let others shine. They can celebrate someone else's success without feeling threatened. They can hear criticism without collapsing. They can say, "I was wrong," without feeling smaller. That is real confidence. Think about the strongest people you know. Often they are not the ones announcing their greatness. They are the ones quietly doing the work. They are consistent. They are teachable. They are steady. They do not need to remind everyone of their value because their actions speak for them. There is a reason a mountain does not shout that it is tall. Its presence is enough. And the same is true for people. Those who possess true depth rarely need to advertise it. In contrast, insecurity constantly seeks evidence. It needs validation, attention, control, and approval, because without those things it feels empty. That is why insecure people may become defensive so quickly. Even small disagreement can feel like a threat. Even another person's success can feel like competition. Even helpful feedback can feel like an attack. So they respond with noise. But noise cannot heal insecurity. Only self-awareness can do that. Only growth can do that. Only honesty can do that. Consider a workplace example. One manager takes every suggestion personally, shuts down new ideas, and always claims credit. Another manager invites ideas, shares recognition, and admits when they do not know something. Which one appears stronger at first? Perhaps the loud one. Which one builds stronger teams over time? Always the secure one. Because people trust humility more than ego. The same happens in personal relationships. A secure partner does not need to control every interaction or feel threatened by every outside connection. They communicate openly. They trust. They grow together. But an insecure partner may become jealous, defensive, possessive, or constantly suspicious. Not because they are powerful, but because they are afraid. This truth matters because many people spend their lives trying to look confident instead of becoming confident. They focus on image instead of identity, performance instead of peace, approval instead of growth. But no amount of external praise can fix an internal wound. The path to confidence is not louder self-promotion. It is quieter self-respect. It is keeping promises to yourself. It is learning from failure instead of hiding from it. It is accepting imperfection while continuing to improve. It is understanding that your worth is not decided by every opinion around you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you see arrogance in others, recognize that there may be pain beneath it. And if you see it in yourself, do not defend it, heal it. You do not need to pretend to be powerful. You can become powerful. You do not need to win every room. You can win your own mind. You do not need to be louder than everyone else. You need to be honest enough to grow. Because the loudest person often speaks from fear, but the strongest person moves from peace. And peace will always outlast performance. Let us come to the fifth and final truth. Time always reveals who had substance. This is the lesson many people learn too. In the short term, noise can be impressive. A person can appear powerful through charisma, aggression, confidence, or the ability to dominate attention. They can walk into a room and make everyone notice them. They can create an image of success. They can speak in ways that sound convincing. They can make promises that excite people. And for a moment, it works. People applaud. People believe. People assume strength. But time has a way of testing every performance. Because eventually words must face results. And when that moment comes, loudness is no longer enough. Anyone can talk about discipline. Time reveals who actually stayed consistent. Anyone can talk about loyalty. Time reveals who remained when things became difficult. Anyone can talk about leadership. Time reveals who lifted others instead of using them. Anyone can talk about values. Time reveals who kept them when compromise was easier. This is why substance matters more than style. Style can attract attention. Substance earns trust. Style can open the door. Substance keeps it open. Style may impress strangers. Substance builds legacy. Think about people you deeply admire. Chances are it is not because they were the loudest. It is because over years, maybe even decades, they demonstrated something rare. Reliability, integrity, courage, patience, character. These qualities do not always shine in one dramatic moment. Often, they are revealed slowly through repeated choices. The person who keeps showing up, the person who keeps learning, the person who stays honest when lying would be easier, the person who treats others well when no one is watching, the person who remains humble after success, the person who keeps going after failure. That is substance. And the beautiful thing about substance is that it does not need immediate recognition. It can survive being overlooked. It can survive not being praised every day. It can survive seasons when no one notices the effort. Because what is real does not depend on applause. Consider business. Some companies grow quickly through hype, flashy branding, and big promises. They make noise. They dominate headlines. But if the product is weak, if the culture is broken, if trust is missing, time exposes it. Customers leave. Employees leave. Reputation fades. Meanwhile, another company may grow quietly. They serve customers well. They improve consistently. They build trust one experience at a time. At first, they may seem less exciting. But over time, they become respected because their foundation is strong. The same is true in personal life. Some people seem impressive when you first meet them. They know how to charm, how to speak, how to create an image. But months later, you discover they are unreliable, selfish, or empty behind the performance. Others may not demand attention at all. They are quiet, steady, sincere. But as time passes, you realize they are the kind of people you can trust with your heart, your business, your family, love, your future. Time reveals everything. It reveals who is pretending. It reveals who is prepared. It reveals who is chasing image. It reveals who is building character. This truth should encourage you. Maybe you feel overlooked right now. Maybe others around you seem louder, faster, more visible, more celebrated. Maybe you wonder if integrity still matters in a world obsessed with attention. It does. Keep building substance. Keep developing skills. Keep honoring your word. Keep treating people with dignity. Keep learning when no one is watching. Keep doing the work that does not get instant applause. Because while others may be chasing moments, you are building something stronger. A reputation. And reputation is powerful because it enters the room before you do. When your name becomes connected with trust, discipline, and character, opportunities begin to open that volume alone could never create. Ladies and gentlemen, do not envy those who rise quickly through noise. Watch what remains after the excitement fades. The loudest person may win attention today, but the person with substance wins respect tomorrow. The loudest person may dominate the moment, but the person with character shapes the years. So be patient, be consistent, be real. Let time become your proof. Because in the end, the world forgets many voices, but it never forgets value. Ladies and gentlemen, the loudest person may control the moment, but the wisest person shapes the future. The loudest person may win the room, but the calmest person wins the people. And in life, in leadership, in love, in legacy, the people always matter more than the room.